Video 17, and this one's not often used, but it's useful in order to get a better handle and understanding on how the contrast manager works and what F contrasts are, just trying to find where there are voxels with regressors with betas that are significantly different from 0, especially useful in the case of problem participants who aren't seeming to show very much differential activation, but all that is explained in the video. Looking at contrasts at the moment, and we've defined 3 sensible contrasts. I want to look at some other things that people sometimes use just to make sure they've done everything right. You need to understand the difference between a T contrast and an F contrast. A T contrast, you'll typically subtract one condition from another, and it's directional. You only show those areas more activated by one condition than another. And an F contrast is more about showing differences from 0. It's signless. So what we can do is try and recreate SPM of old, where by default, when you did statistics, SPM would come up with a contrast called effects of interest, and this puts just as a multiline F contrast with a weight of 1 on each condition or regressor in each line. I'll show you what it means. So we would have 1 on the first line, 0, 1 on the second, 0, 0, 1 on the third, 0, 0, 0, 1 on the fourth, 0, 0, 1 on the fifth. You can see where we're going with this. And this is not super useful unless you've got some really bad data and you're not quite sure what's going on. And this will just show if, on average, any of the regressors is showing a difference from 0. Let's see if I've done that right. Okay, so it's right padded with zeros, and we do have this weird looking line here because we've got just a 1 on there and the 0 and everything else. So for each of our interesting regressors, forget the constants and the other things SPM hides from us, for each of our 4 conditions for our 5 participants, so we have 20 lines with a 1 on each of the different contrasts on each of the different lines. If we now go through with that and see where we have any betas that are significantly different from 0, this is the good old-fashioned effects of interest, where effectively it's showing up a voxel if any of the betas are significantly different from 0, whatever that might mean. So we get a huge number of clusters showing up, and let's overlay that on our previous sections. So we've got a nice heat map, and what this is showing is, yes, we're getting things showing up in on our ventral surface, but also we're getting other occipital regions showing up because we're modelling our 4 interesting experimental conditions against the baseline, if you recall, which is just a blank screen. So there's lots of occipital stuff showing through as well, so early visual areas which are excited by pretty much anything in the visual field. So that's what's called effects of interest. It used to come up as default in SPM. It doesn't anymore because it's not considered particularly helpful. You should really go in and look at your specific contrasts. Just to reiterate, you don't normally do effects of interest F contrasts like that anymore, but it is actually useful if you've got a participant who doesn't appear to show much. When you look at a T contrast comparing, say, faces with scrambled and nothing's showing up, it's a good idea to have a look as closely as possible you can to the betas just by doing an F contrast effects of interest to see if there's anything going on there or if something has gone wrong elsewhere. So it's a good trick to have in your repertoire.